Do you sometimes just feel like everything is changing? Like you just can't get a grip on things and everything is changing? Well, good morning. I'm Jeffrey Paul with your morning inspiration. And today we're going to talk about perpetual change or perpetual transformation. You know, so often today, the days of our life, it has been absolutely a change every time you get up in the morning for almost 2.5, almost going on 3 years. Change of the pandemic, change of the circumstances, wear a mask, don't wear a mask, change of the job situation. Do I go to work? Do I work from home? Changes are just constantly been going on. And that can get really frustrating, especially if you're not conscious of the purpose of change or that the change is in the right direction for your life. We're going to talk about perpetual transformation today. Perpetual, let me read the definition. I just love to go to the dictionary and get these. But the word perpetual means never ending, changing. Sound like we're living, occurring repetitively, so frequently as to seem endless and uninterrupted. But see, there's the change that I described just a moment ago about what we've been going through in our lives and the outside, in the news, in the health, in the arena of work, all those things. What about the transformation within you? The perpetual transformation that the Bible talks about. Before I give you the scripture that we're going to go to, which will come out of 2 Corinthians 3:18, I've put that in the notes. I want to take you to another scripture just in reference to this. In First Corinthians, and get your pencils and paper, you're going to need this because I think it's going to really give you another understanding of what's happening inside you so you're not in the blind. And remember that word. But First Corinthians chapter 2, verses 6 through 9 through 16. That's First Corinthians chapter 2, verses 9 through 16. It says that no eye has seen, no ear has heard, no mind has perceived what God has planned for us. As you roll down that scripture and you get closer to verse 16, it says, but we who are being transformed, we who have accepted Christ, we who have oneness and relationship with Christ, have the mind of Christ. Whoa. But see, there's this constant perpetual process of transformation because we have this fluctuation that goes from human mind to the mind of Christ. And the more that you perpetually transform into the likeness of Christ that we're going to read about, into the mind and thoughts of Christ, then your life begins to change. It begins to change for the right direction. And you're even comfortable with the uncomfortable times of your life when you're starting to say no to those thoughts of anger and frustration. You don't want to because you want to maybe get revenge or you want to get your feelings hurt or whatever it might be, but you're starting to transform. Well, let's go to the scripture that I mentioned earlier and see what we can learn from that in regards to 2 Corinthians chapter 3. I'm reading from the Amplified Version, and in verse 18, this is what it says. And we all, that's us, so include yourself there, and we all, with unveiled faces, continually seeing as in a mirror the glory of the Lord, are progressively, or in my word this morning, perpetually being transformed into this image from one degree of glory to even more glory, which comes from the Lord who is the Spirit. Now, you could read that and it could kind of pass by. But all of a sudden, when you're sitting and you're trying so hard to get close to Christ, when you're trying so hard to make your family work together for the good, harmonize and be one in spirit, full of joy, when you're working at work and you're working so hard but no one's recognizing it, what are you thinking? What are your thoughts? What are your feelings? Well, we want to put those things away because those things are passing away. Your age, your body, your mind, and everything else in the human package is passing away. Yesterday, my brother Angelo, you hear me speak about so often, sent me a song and a video that happened to be all these celebrities that they show them at their current age and then roll back picture after picture after picture of their youngest age. It was just amazing because there were people that you would recognize, but they look so old in the picture. And as you saw them go younger, some of you remember them in movies and that type of thing. It was amazing. But the statement was, as they get older, I see differently. In fact, it was the older I get, the more I realize. The older I get. And he says, if there was a fountain of youth in the song, he said, if there's a fountain of youth, I wouldn't want it. I really wouldn't want it because I'm enjoying being transformed perpetually, not in the body, not in the aging, but in the closeness and oneness of being more Christ-like. One day, 1 minute at a time, if necessary, but continually, perpetually being transformed. Now, how do we do that? Well, the first thing you take out is I. It's not about I can transform. It's said in the scripture that I have posted right there. It's the Spirit. It's from the Lord who is the Spirit. And that's where we constantly share almost every morning. So often we try too hard to be instead of being. Hear what I have to say. Hear this now for yourself. We so often try so hard that when we really become unable to get to that point, we put masks on or we become posers. We act out the way that we think we should be. Instead of going within and allow the eyes that haven't seen, the ears that haven't heard, the mind that hasn't perceived in the human nature, who's been trying too hard, to begin to see through the eyes and the mirror of Christ. 1 Corinthians 13, down about 8 through 13, it says, when I was a child, I acted like a child. When I was immature, when I was growing, I didn't really see or understand anything. You know what it's like? Yeah, I mean, you and I know what that's like. What we thought was important in high school was not as important as what we learned in college. And what we thought in college and our feelings and our emotions and our drives was not like when we got into our 40s and whatever age you are, it continually has this transformation to it of awareness. Hopefully, you get an awakening. You get an awakening that the Spirit comes and lives in you and starts to speak to you, and you start to listen to it. But in turn, there's this constant change. And so often, if we don't have the Spirit, if we're not connected to the Spirit, if we're not seeking the Spirit on a day-to-day basis in conversations with the boss, with conversations with our wife, with the person who's just cut us off on the highway, if we're not in true conversations with the Spirit, then we're transforming, but we're transforming more in the human nature, in the human characteristics, in the human attitudes, in the human feelings. You like that? How's that working for you? I don't think it works good for you. I can tell you that from experience. But as you step back into the Spirit of God, as you step back into that consciousness of the mind of Christ that it talks about in 1 Corinthians 2:16, or if you go to Romans chapter 12, verse 2, the transformation of your mind is the renewal, is the true renewal of from human nature, how I think, how I feel, how I want, and all those things into Christ-like. What would Christ say now? What would Christ do now? And Jesus said this, these are not my words I'm speaking, it's the Father's. These are not the things that I'm acting out or doing that I do on my own, but I do what I see the Father do. He was so connected. He was so in the mirror of looking in the face of God, hearing God's voice. You can too. Jesus said it. You can do what he did, and even greater, it says, on this earth. Wow. Think about that. Think about today being constantly transformed more like Christ, more like Christ, more like Christ. I don't know about you, but that really excites me. Friday, don't miss Friday. We've got an exciting announcement on Friday to help you be able to be inspired any time of the day, anywhere you're at, in so many different places. But I will share it all in detail on Monday. You may be watching our our Facebook or our websites, and you'll see some little teasers that we're throwing up there. We've got some exciting news for you on Friday. Join me Friday. But until then, I'm praying for you, each and every one of you, Becky, Deborah, Johnny, Gail, Judith, Janet, Randy. In fact, by the way, pray for Randy. He just sent me a text. He's kind of under the weather. He thinks he's got food poisoning. Pray for the people in your family. Pray for your work source and the people you serve, because in a transformed life, there is miracles and supernatural accomplishments, and the things that you could never do on your own. But what is impossible for you, Mark 10:27 says, is possible with God. Continue to be perpetually transformed in the spirit and likeness of Christ. See you tomorrow.